All right. Hey, Vikings fans. Welcome in to another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yep, and this week was not the most fun to talk about the Vikings, but we had to do it. And because it wasn't so fun, I had to spin the wheel of purple punishments, and it got a little hairy. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it did. I got to help you with that, which was fun. But after that, we got to recap a really awful Vikings game against the Lions. It was not fun to talk about, but we had to.
And in order to stop us from talking about that for hours and hours on end, we did look forward to the actual first game of the playoffs for the Vikings against the Rams. And there's some hope there.
Definitely some optimism. I'm glad that the Vikings can continue playing football.
Yep.
Grab a cold one out there. Join us for episode 74.
Skol.
Skol. All right, we're going to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, Big Top Ventures. If you're looking to take an all-inclusive vacation to Mexico or Jamaica, we're going to flash their email on the screen down here. It's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Send them an email, let them know what you're looking to do, and they'll hook you up with the best rate possible. So thanks to Big Top for sponsoring today's episode, and step right up to your next big adventure with Big Top Ventures.
Yeah, and do it. Definitely do it. It's fun to take those trips, and if you ever don't take those trips because you don't know how expensive it'll be, you can always just ask them and they'll give you a quote. And if it's good for you, then it's good for you. If not, then no big deal. But reach out to them. They're good people, and the trips that they offer up are a lot of fun. So yeah.
I feel like you're stalling a little bit.
A little bit, because I have to spin the wheel. Because I was an idiot and predicted a victory over the Detroit Lions. Did I predict a victory both games this season against the Lions? Ooh. Have I spun twice now because of the darn Detroit Lions?
Here, let's go back and look real fast.
Just another way for me to stall another 10
You did
seconds.
Predict them to sweep the Lions.
So I've spun twice. Did you at least have to spin with me the first time?
The first time, yes. I thought they would win week 7 coming off of the week 6 bye, but I had them losing here at the end of the season.
Yeah, because you're smart and
I just figured
not a faithful fan.
Home field advantage, and then traveling to Detroit for that last game when that happened. That we will have to talk about. We're still mourning.
We are. It's not even 24 hours yet. So we get the day to be annoyed and upset about it, and then we'll grieve it out to you guys who are choosing to watch and listen.
Speaking of that, I'll let you stall a little bit longer. You brought the beer tonight, but you brought a Minnesota beer to start. We're going to get to the Iowa beer here in a little bit. I've never had this one. Have you?
I don't believe I have. Now that I'm saying that, maybe I need to go back to last year's advent calendar that Miranda made for me. There's a chance this is one she would have put in there. I don't remember though. I don't think it was in there, but all that to say, I don't think I've had this before. Of course, you're talking about Surly Brewing Company, which is a Minnesota brewery. We do have to say we have our rule about Iowa only beers.
And we're getting there. We have some Iowa beer.
This one is not the official beer of episode 74.
74,
my goodness.
Yeah.
The
Cam Robinson episode.
I was going to go Bryant McKinney, but right. I guess I don't know.
Bryant McKinney's a better 74.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, before we get started, we got to bring in some good vibes, because that game against the Lions brought a lot of bad vibes. So Surly has a beer called Before I Die. It's a lager. It is decorated in purple and yellow. It's got the Grim Reaper with thumbs up, kind of smiling right on the can. So you know they're talking about the Vikings winning a championship once before I die. So let's bring some good vibes with this beer. And you had a good idea too. Another Minnesota brewery sent us stuff.
They sent
way
us
back
some
in the
cups not too long ago. Some nice glasses here from Lift Bridge Brewing out of Stillwater, Minnesota. So we're going to enjoy this Surly Before I Die out of these Lift Bridge Grape Ape glasses. They sent us some Grape Ape too, which was pretty good.
Yeah, that was. But yeah, we just got to get the good vibes going. Not a lot of head retention at all. Almost to the point that it would make me think it's a sour, but it's a lager.
Yep.
Skol.
Skol. It's just a straightforward beer.
Yeah, it's a solid everyday lager. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's more, the beer is good. There's nothing bad with the beer. I think it's more about the gimmick of, yeah, we just got to get one before we die. So good job, Surly. I am excited for the actual official beer of the episode here a little bit later, but
yeah,
that was pretty good.
All right, man. I think we got to do this thing. I know you don't want to, but alas, we have 4 items left. We'll recap these quick.
Yeah.
You could sit in a child's chair for the rest of the episode.
Which would be kind of fun. I'd probably break that child's chair.
It's pretty sturdy.
I don't know.
You could wax a limb.
I almost want that. Quick and easy. It'd be painful. I'll do like my leg or something. I don't know. But
you could consume an entire jar of pickles. That would go really well with this beer,
I'd throw a pickle in here in a good way. I think maybe that's what I want. I don't know how entertaining that'd be.
The last one would be pie in the face.
I don't want to.
I know you don't want to do that because you have the beard. It wouldn't be a huge deal for me because I would probably just wipe my face off with a towel and call it good.
Yeah, we would definitely have to take a break for a few minutes.
Oh yeah, we'll pause for sure if we need to do that. But all right,
just rip the Band-Aid off.
Here we go, and you will be waxing a limb.
Okay. All right. I'm okay with this.
I'm okay with this too because it comes off the board now. I don't have to do it anymore.
All right. I'll be doing a calf. And we have some.
They're behind you there. I don't know if you want to grab those quick. So yeah, we bought these Nair wax strips. I'm pretty sure I got them from the dollar store. So they're the good stuff.
Yeah. They are orchid and cherry blossom extracts.
Lovely.
Scented.
You're going to smell so good.
All right.
Do you want to read the instructions first?
Yeah, we should probably. It says 3 easy steps, so we'll go for that. There's 2 sizes.
Oh, go large.
I was going to say, there's like a smaller, probably the precision, maybe that mustache. And then there is the larger, maybe like the armpit. I'm going large.
Go big. Go big or go home, man. While you get that set up, I'll just recap really quickly because we are now at the end of the regular season. The Wheel of Purple Punishments has been kind of our ongoing thing where we picked the games in the preseason. And then if we picked incorrectly, so we picked the whole Viking schedule, win or loss, and we've been keeping track of if we've successfully picked those or not. We actually did it with our families as well, so our wives both made picks, our kids made picks, and we also flipped a coin. The coin ended up in a glass of beer.
That was hilarious.
At one point. But anyways.
Maybe my favorite Skol Hop moment of the year.
That was a good one for sure. So here's the recap on how everybody fared. Austin, your wife actually won the Pick'em Challenge. Oh. She picked 76% of the games correctly. So that's impressive.
Can we not tell her that? She will never let me live that down if we tell her that.
I might clip this out and just send it to her. I'll text it to her. No, she won 76%. The coin and my wife actually tied for second place at 65%. I followed them at 59%. My kids were 53%, and then you and your kids tied at 47% each. And I think you mentioned it before we started recording, but the 47% for you was because you picked a really good season.
Yeah, I picked a good season.
You picked a 12-win season when I picked a 9-win season, I think. So,
all right, Ev. So,
you ready?
So I pulled out what I thought was 1 strip.
You've got 2.
They come 2 strips stuck together. We can't waste it.
No, you can't.
I'm gonna do 2 strips. All right.
Can I pull one?
You can pull both of them if you want.
Let's do it.
All right. I don't know the best way to do this.
I got a corner of it.
It didn't come off.
Come on.
Oh no.
That's bad. That's bad news for
Oh
you.
no.
All right. Round 2.
I was thinking, man, that didn't hurt.
3,
2, 1.
1.
Show that to the camera.
Oh,
yeah.
That's some good stuff right there. How'd that feel?
Honestly, it wasn't that bad. I don't know. But my leg is smooth right now.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah, let me press it in.
Does it say you have to like keep it on for
a
a period of time? Or it just, once you put it on, you just rip it off?
It doesn't say anything about waiting any amount of time. And it did.
It sure did,
I don't
yeah.
know.
There's no hair there anymore.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the next one.
Next one.
Ready?
All right, should we switch spots?
Oh,
For the camera.
They can't hear us right now.
Probably.
But that's okay.
All right, we have switched spots.
All right. This one's on the inside of the calf now. You ready? 3, 2, 1.
Ooh, that one. Ooh, yeah, that stung. Oh, yeah. There it is.
There's definitely a lot more hair on the next one. All right, he's showing off the bald spot on the inner calf now that he's done, and he's going to move the camera back and get that all lined up for us.
I think you're
Well,
gonna have to...
oh, it looks pretty good, actually. I'm super glad that you landed on that one, because it's not that I'm like adverse to pain or anything. It does not sound comfortable, and I think the second one there was less comfortable than the first.
Yeah, but if 1 to 10 pain scale, I don't know, maybe like a 1.5 or a 2. It wasn't bad at all.
Oh, all right.
So I guess they're not a sponsor, but if you need some good wax strips that don't hurt, I don't know about any other brand, but Nair works pretty well. So
I will say I didn't really get a whole lot of the scent. I didn't get the cherry blossom or whatever it is. Do you have
it's kind of on my hands.
Okay. It's not overpowering though, so it's not like I'm sitting here being blasted away by your terrible scent. But
I say we leave that on the board. Your face.
No, that's been the rule all season. It's off the wheel now. So
maybe we could.
I'm happy to take a pie in the face. I'm happy to do that.
We could tweet out the list of things that we've already done and have people vote for which ones should go back on for the playoffs. I don't know. That was a flash in the pan idea. We'll figure it out.
On-air business meeting. We can figure that out. That's not a bad idea. I'm not opposed to that.
All right.
I am opposed to directly putting that one right back on the wheel.
I don't know, man. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad.
All right. Well, we need to talk about this game.
I
don't want to.
No.
Just like I don't want to wax a limb.
It was an awful game. The Vikings lost to the Lions 31-9.
What felt worse, the Vikings losing or waxing your leg?
Oh, the Vikings losing by far. The waxing of the leg doesn't even register on the scale compared to the Vikings losing. So
it was tough.
It was tough, and especially when... And I don't want to sound like I'm giving excuses, because I'm definitely not. The Detroit Lions were the better team last night. They beat the Vikings handedly. There's no question about that. Take nothing away from the Lions. So everything I'm going to say, please remember that. I know the Lions won that game and the Vikings lost. No excuses. Not on the refs, not on anything else. But Sam Darnold was missing passes early. How many trips inside the 5 and they don't come away with a touchdown? Sam Darnold twice had Jordan Addison wide open pretty much for not a difficult pass, not a difficult catch, and what would have been probably a touchdown, and just threw to somebody else for a different incompletion. The offensive scheme was working because guys were getting open, and Sam just couldn't hit them, which makes it all the more frustrating. I don't know. The Vikings could have been in that game. And the silver lining is the playoffs haven't started yet. That would have made the playoffs way better with a first-round bye and home field advantage. Now they've got a longer, harder road in the playoffs. But they've proven all year they can go toe-to-toe with any team, better or worse, and beat them. They've only lost to 2 different teams this year.
Yeah. I think going into whatever games the Vikings have left, obviously there's one more guaranteed. Hopefully there's more after that. But I think what this Vikings team in particular needs, and I think it's been the case since Kevin O'Connell's taken over as coach, this Vikings team needs to be underappreciated by the public. They need to be doubted. They need to be not talked about in the media or disrespected or called fraudulent or whatever, because when they get those narratives, somehow, some way, that motivates KOC, and it motivates the guys throughout the week to come out and play hard. And then they come out and they shock the world with how well they played. Nobody expected the Vikings to win 14 games this year. And countless times they were the underdogs in these games. They went on that 3-game road stretch, which was crazy. Like, that just doesn't usually happen where you play 3 games in a row on the road. And I looked at those in my preseason picks and I thought, they're not going to win all of those games. And lo and behold, they won them all. That was in the middle of their 9-game win streak. So I think that's a key to motivating this team this week. Right now, I think they're only 1.5 point favorites at LA. The last I looked, maybe it dropped to 1. I could see it flip-flopping all over the place, kind of like the Detroit game did this last week. But I think that's... coming back to the Lions game, I know I'm jumping ahead to the Rams game, but I think that was kind of their kryptonite this last week in the media. A lot of people said, I think the Vikings can do it. They're playing so well. They've won 9 in a row. They lost to the Lions earlier this season. I think they can come back and get them. And that just wasn't the case. And in fact, they laid the biggest egg on the biggest stage at the end of the regular season. So
yeah, it was definitely the worst game of the season. Score-wise, performance-wise, nobody looked fantastic. Down to even Will Reichard. I don't know if he's still dealing with any kind of injury, and he's just playing through it or what. But at one point, he missed the field. I tweeted and said an NFL football field is 53.5 yards wide, and Will Reichard missed it. Like that kind of thing, when it was a competitive game at that point, that can kill you. That gave the Lions, or opened the door for the Lions to score 3 extra points. I don't know. It was just awful all the way around. Nobody feels good, and it felt like a season-ending loss. Like, I had to remind myself today, like, oh yeah, the playoffs are still happening. They're still in it. They still have one more game. It sucked.
Yeah, and it wasn't going to be good for whoever lost the game, because whoever lost that game was going to be the first 14-win team to be a 5 seed and to not win their division. Like, it was just a raw deal for the loser of that game, and that's why there was so much on that game. And on the flip side, there was so much to be gained. Home field advantage and a bye week going into the playoffs. Yeah. That's huge.
That game counted. It wasn't a playoff game, but on a week that a lot of other teams are resting starters, and
the Chiefs got blown out 38-0. Are you kidding me?
On that week, the Vikings and Lions were both playing in a game that kind of counted for 2 games.
Yep.
It just gave them a free card to skip over the first round of the playoffs, which that would have been really freaking nice, especially if we're sitting here a week from now and talking about the end of the season. I don't know. Do we want to go into roses and thorns?
I think we should, because there were a few good things.
Let's start off with thorns, so then we can kind of
end
talk
on a
about
positive,
any good things.
And on a positive note.
Usually it's me, but you kind of did all the homework here today.
I did, yeah.
You got everything. So your first thorn, I think it's the first thing I said. Sam Darnold looked bad. Just probably his worst game as a Viking. And maybe because that Jaguars game was pretty awful. I was going to say, the
only other game I can think of that was as bad, if not worse, was the 12-7 win over the Jaguars. But the defense and Will Reichard carried the offense through that game, and the offense was still moving the ball, and then he would try to find Justin Jefferson and he'd throw a pick. It just happened every time. This game was different, where he wasn't hitting anybody.
Yeah.
He couldn't hit Justin Jefferson. He couldn't hit TJ Hawkinson. I think his best completion percentage to a receiver was Jalen Naylor, I think. Like, it was just kind of a weird night, and he was sailing balls really high, which usually means the quarterback's nervous. He's really kind of jacked up and jittery. So yeah, it was just
and even some of the completions, they were high. Like, the receiver had to Superman up and get it.
Yep.
And then when he stopped sailing them high, there was a couple balls that were way too short. Like, it was just awful all the way around. I saw on Twitter somebody said the lights got too bright for him. Like, hypothetically, not that the light, like, he was being blinded by the ceiling lights, but let's hope it's out of his system. He has proven all year that he can be good. Before that, he went on a stretch of a handful of games where when the Vikings needed Sam Darnold to be clutch, he was clutch. And he did some amazing things. That Cardinals game alone, at the end of it, he single-handedly won it for the Vikings. That's probably the biggest thorn overall.
And I think his performance led to this second thorn for me, which was the receivers.
Yeah.
And I don't think Sam's 100% to blame for some of these things, because Justin Jefferson had a few balls thrown his way that he should have caught. And he's the type of receiver, he's that generational talent. He's been compared to Randy Moss and Jerry Rice and Chris Carter and all the other big time wide receivers that have come before him. You put the ball within 10 yards of him and he's going to catch it. I watched something this last week. It was the Seahawks game, and Kevin O'Connell was recapping with Paul Allen, our favorite broadcaster.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin O'Connell was in the studio with PA during the week, and they were reviewing some film, and KOC made the comment to PA. He said, yeah, this play we drew up right here was basically just if Sam can get the ball anywhere in the vicinity of the Seahawks logo in that corner of the end zone, we know that Justin Jefferson is going to come down with it. And there was a play like that. It's similar to that Seahawks game in the corner of the end zone, and he just couldn't come down with it. There was another one on the other side of the end zone. It was high because Sam kept throwing the ball high all night. But it looked like Justin Jefferson started to think about his feet and where they were before he secured the ball, and he dropped the ball. Yeah. And it's just like, this is just not Justin Jefferson. The nerves carried over to him, and TJ Hawkinson had an arguably worse night than Justin Jefferson did. He couldn't catch a ball to save his life.
Well, and speaking of dropping a ball, that Andrew Van Ginkel missed pick six, because it would have, I don't know, he would have had to run a lot of ways, and he was going to be chased by a lot of athletic Detroit Lions, but he could have scored. Definitely should have had that interception. It was in his hands, and then he looked up like, where am I running to? And he just dropped it. That at that point in the game could have changed it. That could have been the spark that the team needed. But
that hit earlier in the game that he laid, I think was it on Gibbs?
Gibbs, yeah.
He lit Gibbs up. Yeah. That was so fun to watch.
Well, and that play, I don't know if I tweeted it or texted it to you or both or whatever, but
you
that
texted
play,
it to me for sure.
I mean, so he had the pick six in New York, first game of the year, and then a couple games later in London, because it was against Aaron Rodgers. But it was one of those, like, he got really good at reading the play, knowing when it was going to be that quick pass to the flank, and he would sit back, and after the pick sixes, he kind of kept getting caught and, like, jumping too early, and the pass was still completed a handful of times throughout the year. But that one he read perfectly. He kind of stayed and waited. He knew, all right, I'm not going to get there to intercept the ball, but he waited for Gibbs to make that catch and then delivered a beautiful, hard, legal hit. And credit to Gibbs, because he was only out for a couple of plays, and he still obviously scored 4 freaking touchdowns
after that.
Yeah, and he came back after that hit. I'm sure he feels that hit, but yeah, credit to him, because that was a big lick.
We could maybe get into a tweet later on in the Skol Patrol segment regarding that play in particular.
Okay,
could be. It's one of the options that we have for that. But
all right. So as far as thorns, I just kind of almost alluded to it here. The Vikings, the defense couldn't stop Jahmyr Gibbs. He is an extremely talented football player, but the Vikings had no answer for him. He seemed to be able to do whatever he wanted to do, and that's There's nothing more frustrating.
And I think at the end of the game, and Kevin O'Connell kind of showed his hand a little bit in his post-game press conference, he seemed to allude to the fact that he was pulling guys out at the end, or telling guys, like, hey, we're out of this game. We need to start preparing for Monday night against the Rams. And I wonder if at least one of those fourth quarter touchdowns of Jahmyr Gibbs was just the Vikings conceding, waving the white flag, Kevin O'Connell saying, we're done with this game. There's no chance for us to win it. Let's just move on to LA. Yep. I would hope not, and I know that frustrates you when you're a fan watching, because you don't ever want your team to give up until the clock hits 0 and the score is final. But things really got out of control in the fourth quarter. They scored 14 points, and they were 2 Jahmyr Gibbs touchdowns in the fourth.
That's frustrating. Speaking of fans and Van Ginkel, I'm reading a tweet from Sam Van Ginkel, Andrew's wife, and she kind of talked about how poorly the other wives and her were treated by some Detroit fans. Not saying 60,000 Detroit fans are all worthless garbage. There's some of them. There's also some pretty crappy Vikings fans sometimes too, but somebody tweeted at her and said, hope you ladies were treated respectfully, in a reply to one of her tweets. And she replied and just said, I've honestly never been treated so poorly by another team's fan base as I was on Sunday. The other 13 girls said the same thing, which is awful. Come on, guys. I don't care who it is, what team fan base it is. Treat people like people. Even if it's your most hated other NFL team, like, it's just a game at that point. But, and again, I know not 60,000 Detroit Lions fans were doing that. It was probably just a select few awful people. But come on, do better, guys. That's awful.
Yeah, I did hear about that, and it is unfortunate. I think we should take a break quick. I think we should transition from the Minnesota beer to our featured Iowa beer of the episode, which you brought. And then we'll get into some roses after that. We'll switch gear, and we'll go from a good beer and some negative thoughts about the game to another good beer and some positive thoughts about the game.
Sounds great. All right, so tonight I brought a brew from Backpocket Brewing. Where are they at? Are they in Coralville?
Coralville, yep.
I think I do that every time. Like, whoa, I've never heard of where they are. We've had Backpocket before. This one is the chocolate peanut butter pretzel stout. So
you showed me the beer before we started recording, and all I saw was pretzel stout, and I've seen this on the shelf before, and I thought, like, oh, cool, pretzel stout. This is the first time, like, literally 30 seconds ago was the first time I saw chocolate peanut butter. So that's going to make it even more interesting. Nice. I'm excited for it.
Well, so there was a beer in this year's advent calendar that my wife made for me. It was like a chocolate lava cake stout. And it was it showed up a few times in the calendar, and it was one of my favorites. So thinking of that made me really feel perfectly okay with picking this chocolate peanut butter pretzel stout up. All right. Did you try it or smell it?
I smelled it first. Right. It smells amazing. It definitely smells chocolatey and peanut buttery.
All right. Well, they hit those things. Skol.
That is quite the shift from
a lager.
The lager that we were just drinking, but it's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's super dark.
Very dark.
Really good head retention.
Yep.
Creamy. It's it's tricking my brain, but it tastes creamy. Chocolate and peanut butter. I'm not really getting like any pretzel vibes from it yet, but that's delicious. I like that a lot.
It's a 6.2%, so it's a little heftier than the lager. I'll read the description quick too. This chocolate stout begins with a variety of chocolate and caramel malts with a roast for balance. It's infused with over 200 pounds of pretzels and packs a punch of peanut butter to provide a smooth, creamy treat. So there's that smooth and creamy peanut butter that you were talking about.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm really, really glad that I picked this up, and I don't think I've ever had it before.
I haven't. Yeah, I've definitely not. So
yeah,
good stuff.
Thank you, Backpocket, for brewing such a great beer.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's get into some roses about the game. It was a bummer of a game, pretty much all the way around, but there were some silver linings, we can call them.
You did a really good job of thinking up some actual good silver linings. So what's the first one you got there?
I think the best thing I can think of from this game is there were no major injuries in this game for the Vikings. There was a major injury, Terrion Arnold.
Oh yeah,
for the Lions, rookie, one of their corners. And I think he was tasked with covering Justin Jefferson, at least at one point.
Maybe a little bit. They had another guy that was really good and did an amazing job covering Jefferson.
Maybe he was on somebody else. Anyways, I think a silver lining for Vikings fans today, the day after this horrible loss, is that there are not a lot of bad injuries weighing down this team. It's not like we're sitting here, bemoaning the fact that Justin Jefferson tore his ACL or something like that.
Yeah. Well, even overall, not just like guys that were playing in that game, like just as the team. Yeah, I think Fabian Moreau, KOC, said he was close, but he's not a critically high starter. Yeah. But he's about the only one. Other than that, big injuries for this team this year. Obviously the tragic loss of the rookie cornerback, which it's not really, it's weird to put it in the injury category, but if you had to, that's tough. But him, and then JJ McCarthy's knee injury, which I think will turn out to be a blessing in disguise overall, and then Christian Darrisaw. And
that's it, really.
Am I missing anybody else? Nobody else was lost. I mean, there were those few weeks with Will Reichard and DePaula.
Reichard and DePaula were both on IR for 4 weeks.
Ivan Pace is back.
Cashman was out for a few games. Mm-hmm. Those were the only 2 games the Vikings lost.
Yeah, well, 3.
Well,
2 of the 3.
2 of the 3. Before last night, I guess is what I'm saying.
But yeah, it is really nice. The whole year, the Vikings have avoided the injury bug, and that's not something you get every year. That's the difference between teams, having a season like the 49ers had this year and having an amazing historic season of 14 wins.
Yeah, so there's a silver lining for you, Vikings fans, if you're looking for one. The Vikings are very healthy going into the first round of the playoffs, which is exciting.
Yeah.
That's another rose.
Another rose. You've got the defense looked elite early on, and maybe their drop-off was towards the end, once it became clear that this game wasn't going to go the Vikings' way. Maybe that had some factor into why the defense stopped looking as great. But, yeah, for a lot of the game, they looked really good. Jared Goff looked lost a little bit out there for a while. The Lions' success early in the game was all on the ground.
Yeah.
It was weird because Goff wasn't throwing much, and he had a couple of interceptions. Harrison Smith, hopefully not his last interception, but if it is, it's great to get one. He's got, 37 picks?
37 on his career.
If that dude doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, I no longer care about the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. And you have the note here, the Vikings are the only team in the league with a takeaway in every game. Yeah,
it was, this defense, man, was outstanding to watch. I think to start this game, I think in the first half, the halftime score was 10-6, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people expected this to be an offensive shootout. I think they thought these 2 elite offenses were just going to come out and just steamroll the opposing defenses. And unfortunately, that ended up happening for the Vikings towards the end of the game. The Lions just kept pouring it on because that's kind of how Dan Campbell rolls. There's not a whole lot of conservative in that guy. But I think the game plan early on for both defensive coordinators, Aaron Glenn and Brian Flores, was take these quarterbacks out of the game, make their lives miserable, get after them. And the Lions did that successfully. And for a while, the Vikings did that successfully against Jared Goff. They had him frustrated. He walked off the field after that Harrison Smith interception, which was his second one, and you could just see it in his face. He was mad.
Yeah, and he was hanging his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did not look like he was having a lot of fun for a while until he until he was.
Well, and that play too, he was backed up in his own end zone, and he kind of just chucked up a prayer, and I'm pretty sure Harrison Smith caught it right at the 50-yard line. Like, it was just this like soaring arc of a pass, and he just was like, I'll take that. Thanks.
Was that the play right after the one that was not called as intentional grounding, even though it absolutely was intentional grounding?
I think the intentional, I could be wrong. The timeline of the game is a little fuzzy to me, but I think the intentional grounding that should have been called that wasn't happened in the first half.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense.
I think. But that was also frustrating to, like, literally, it's the definition of grounding, and you had the broadcast team saying as much. They're like, oh yeah, that should have been grounding. I don't know why that wasn't called. That was frustrating.
Oh, well.
But we're not here to complain about the refs.
Yeah, we've done enough of that this year.
You pointed this one out to me, so this one's more yours, even though I wrote it down. What's another rose here?
Oh, the scheme, specifically the offensive scheme, it was working. It's just Sam couldn't hit guys. They couldn't execute. And then, sometimes he would hit a guy and it wouldn't get caught. And then sometimes the ball would get caught. But mostly the scheme was working. The game plan was working well. KOC did what he needed to do, planning-wise, execution-wise, on his coaching standpoint. It's just you can't have the errant passes. And one thing that I'm taking as a positive from this is it's not like we've been saying all season, oh, Sam Darnold, he just can't hit a guy. Yeah, there was the awful Jaguars game, and he hasn't been perfect, but, I mean, the guy has the team or NFL record of most 100-plus quarterback ratings. Is it with his team for the first year or just overall? And if it's not an NFL record, it's definitely the Vikings record.
Vikings record for sure.
He has proven he can be accurate. You go back, you ever hear KOC talk about the values that he looks for in a quarterback? It's accuracy. That's the first thing he says. He doesn't say, athletic ability or anything. It's accuracy. That's number one, and that's why the Vikings lost yesterday, is because Sam Darnold wasn't accurate. The scheme was good. The scheme is there. This team will win with this scheme.
And I think to add on to that, Kevin O'Connell adjusted in the second half. It was interesting. The broadcast team pointed this out. I didn't even really notice it, but Aaron Jones didn't come out of the locker room to start the second half. It sounds like maybe he was getting an IV or something.
Somebody tweeted a photo of him with the bandage on, but when he was out, that's when Cam Akers
ripped off that huge 58-yard run. But the point I'm trying to make is at that point, kind of coming into the third quarter there after halftime, I saw somebody on Twitter say, KOC's kind of abandoned the run. And then shortly after I read that tweet, here comes Cam Akers busting this thing off. And then shortly after that big run, Aaron Jones came back in the game, and he started ripping off some good runs too, and he was moving the ball. And so I think, again, to your point, KOC made the right adjustments. Okay, Sam is just sailing these balls over everybody's head. We can't get a completion to save our lives. Let's just run it, and let's let Aaron Jones and Cam Akers do it. And Sam actually took off a few times on his own too, and got a few, I think he got at least one, maybe two first downs on his legs in the third quarter.
Which he's done a handful of times throughout the season. So don't get cute. Don't go away from what works, and make solid adjustments if what has been working is no longer working.
Make adjustments.
Go get it energized.
Skol.
All right. We could sit here for another 12 hours and complain about this game or try to make ourselves feel better about the game. I don't think that would do anybody good.
We should hand out some game balls really quick.
Yeah.
It was a loss, obviously, but still some good things, as we've already pointed out, and some players that I think deserve some recognition. I'll start offensively. Okay. I'm going to go with Cam Akers. We just talked about him. Yep. That 58-yard run was awesome, and it's just good to know that you've got a guy like him waiting in the wings, especially when your number one guy is still in the locker room getting treatment for whatever he's dealing with. I'm giving it to him, and I'm hopeful that this Vikings running attack can continue to just be the steady Eddie of this team into the playoffs.
Yeah. For me, offense, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think Cam Akers is the only one that seemed like he could have earned a game ball just off that 58-yard run alone.
Yeah. All right. Defense. I kicked myself as we were talking about a different player a little bit ago.
I know what player you're talking about.
So you can steal that player. Yeah. I'm going to go with Ivan Pace Jr., though. On defense, he has just been... He's been an asset. After coming back from injury. You felt his presence when he wasn't there, or the lack of his presence when he was injured. I think there's like 6 guys that could probably get a defensive game ball today. You could probably give one to Blake Cashman. You could give one to Jonathan Grenard. He had a sack last night. But Ivan Pace Jr., he's a second-year undrafted free agent, and he just continues to ball out. He balled out last year. He's continuing to play really, really well this year. I think he could be one to watch in the playoffs. He might be just fired up and ready to go.
Absolutely. Although he is not good at joining in on the High School Musical dance celebration. I don't think he attended any of those rehearsal sessions. He was vibing, though. And of course, that was last week. They didn't do a celebration this week, did they?
No, I don't think they did.
And if they did, it wasn't televised and nobody talked about it. But my defensive game ball goes to another guy that got an interception, and somebody who absolutely should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, Harrison Smith.
Oh, I thought you were going to go somewhere else. I'm going to give an honorary defensive game ball in a minute then.
I mean, so it would have been Van Ginkel for me.
That's my honorary one.
Yeah, if he had held on to that interception. Oh, man, that would have been huge. That dropped interception was like the first pin going in the balloon to deflate it all. That was it. But it was still a good play by him. The ball wasn't caught. But anyways, defensive game ball for me, Harrison Smith. He got an interception. This is like a lifetime award right now. This game ball is. I think KOC said it at one point this year when he gave Harrison Smith a game ball. He said, like, he's probably got a few bushels of game balls sitting at home, and if he doesn't, he should, because he get one every week. Harrison Smith is the definition of a Viking. He's probably taken tens of millions of dollars worth of pay cuts just to stay with the Vikings. I hope he has at least one more year, although I fear that might have been his last regular season game. Thank you, Harrison Smith. Here's your game ball.
See, I would disagree with you a little bit. I think my honorary one would go to Van Ginkel, just because, first of all, the hit on Jahmyr Gibbs in the first half was just awesome. I watched, you sent it to me, and I watched it probably like 10 times after you sent it to me. I'm like, that's a football play right there. And then the almost interception, was still pretty great. Like, I was excited that he interrupted the play. Yes, it would have been great if he would have snagged that, and it could have changed the momentum of the game. But I think even at that point, it was kind of too late.
Yeah.
So, anyways, special teams.
Man, I think this is one that we're gonna agree on this, because Will Reichard was awful.
Yes, he was not.
Awful.
He was not good.
And I think he even made a 50-plus yard field goal.
He did.
But other than that, he was awful.
He scored the only points for the team. But yeah, the penalty right before halftime that enabled the Lions to go down and get 3 before halftime was frustrating. And then the missed field goal later on was frustrating too. I still think there's something not right with him. I don't know if it's just mentally or if he's still physically dealing with the quad tear that he was dealing with when he was on IR. But it's concerning to have kicking problems going into the playoffs, because sometimes you need a kicker to kick those clutch field goals to seal the deal.
Absolutely.
We're gonna relive all the horrible memories of Vikings past if we have kicking problems going into the playoffs.
For sure. So, because of that, who's got your special teams game ball?
I'm just going to go with Ryan Wright, because when you lose a game and it's tough and even your special teamers aren't playing great, hopefully your punter can at least do something. So maybe Pat McAfee can appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. Ryan Wright. There's not too much to say about Vikings special teams.
Could maybe say Andrew DePaula, because if you're not talking about the long snapper, it's
that's
usually
true.
a good thing.
Pro Bowler. I think he's the only long snapper to go to 3 Pro Bowls.
Yes.
Which is pretty awesome.
All right, we're going to move into a quick Skol Patrol segment here. I have 3 different options for you. Do you want to open those up quick and let me know which one you want us to dissect? I found 3 different tweets. This Skol Patrol segment is where we patrol Twitter, and we find tweets that we think we could just banter about for a little bit. Obviously, some of them are parody and some of them aren't. But
yeah. Okay. So here I've seen the first one.
This is the first time we've done it this way. I picked one 2 weeks ago. You picked one last week. I'm letting you pick from 3 that I found this week.
Oh, all right. Well, the second one was just depressing.
But I still think we could talk about that one. Are you talking about the Barstool one?
Yeah.
I still think there's good fodder there.
You can talk about it. Yeah, the first one is definitely just clickbait. It's that dumb NFC North news account, which don't follow that because they're stupid. They don't tweet real stuff. Everything they tweet is a lie, and they know it. It's just for engagement. But they tweeted the video of that Van Ginkel tackle on Gibbs, and with the sarcastic font, it was a quote saying the Lions are the dirtiest team in the league, and then saying, but this is the Vikings, with a totally legal hit, a hard, good football hit that was legal. So yeah,
that's part of why I picked it, just because obviously they're being sarcastic and snarky and goofy. But
yep. The third option, we'll just talk about them all. The third option you sent was from the Purple Persuasion. They said if there was ever a year for the road teams to get some upsets in the playoffs, 2024 is it. If the Packers, who are playing the Eagles, Commanders, who are playing the Bucks, and Vikings, who are playing the Rams, all win, in the divisional round would be Green Bay at Detroit and then Washington at Minnesota. So I guess that's what I'm rooting for now, because I don't know if there's another option for Minnesota to host a playoff game.
Well, first of all, we can dwell on this one for a minute. I like the Purple Persuasion. We follow them on our Twitter account. I follow them on my personal Twitter account. They put out some good stuff. I think they forgot that the calendar switched over. It's now 2025.
Yeah.
I know 24 season. But the NFL season's weird because it straddles the new year. But anyways, 20. I would argue they might need to edit that 2025. And this is also kind of a ridiculous scenario, right? Like the Packers beating the Eagles, the Commanders beating the Bucks, and the Vikings beating the Rams. All of the lower seed teams winning on Wild Card Weekend. That would be wild.
Yeah. It could absolutely happen. Packers are a good team. Jordan Love might not be playing. I don't know what his health status is right now.
But
so that's up in the air.
Jalen Hurts might not be playing for the Eagles.
Yeah, although
and Kenny Pickett was hurt too.
Oh wow, was he really?
I think he was.
So that's not a foregone conclusion of a game. The Commanders and Bucks, that seems to me like a totally even matched game.
I think
and if anything, I'd give the nod to the Commanders.
I think that's the best game in the NFC playoffs, in the NFC wild card this weekend.
That'll be a fun one to watch. And then Vikings and Rams, we've already seen that game. The Vikings lost by 10 points earlier, but that was half a season ago, if not even more. I don't know. I won't give my game prediction away yet, but I think either the Vikings or Rams could win it. So it's not crazy to think that this Green Bay at Detroit and Washington at Minnesota situation could happen.
I am kind of rooting for this because it seems to be the most favorable. It gives the Vikings a home game as a 5 seed, which is crazy. And it also guarantees that at least one NFC North team will be in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, for sure.
And it could be 2 NFC North teams playing each other in that NFC Championship game, which would be absolutely nuts.
Yeah. I think I tweeted it out too. My watch yelled at me for my heart rate during the Detroit game. I don't think I can physically handle another game like that, especially to go to the championship. My goodness. All right. So the third option you sent, which kind of just pisses me off. It's from Barstool Detroit. saying, "Thanks for the memories, Vikings." And it's got a fun little graphic of games that the Lions have beaten the Vikings in recent memory. In the 21-22 season, Dan Campbell's first win as the Lions head coach came against the Vikings.
Wasn't that at the end of the season after
It
they
might have
lost
been,
all of their other games?
Yeah. In the 23-24 season, obviously, Lions Clint's first NFC North title. That was just last year.
That's cute. They won their first.
Vikings.
They won their first conference title ever last year.
Yep. Yeah. Good job. Or no, that was division title.
Yeah,
And
NFC North.
They had never won the North. They had won the Central back in the day, but never the North.
That's true. They've never won the North until last year.
And then this graphic ends with yesterday's game, 24-25 season, Lions clinching the number 1 seed and back-to-back NFC North titles against the Vikings.
If we're counting Central and North divisional titles,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Vikings lead all 4 of the current conference team or divisional teams with 20 divisional wins.
Interesting. I'll take your word for it.
I saw it somewhere today. The Packers are second with 18. The Bears have some, I don't know how many, probably mostly in the 80s. The Lions had 3 before last night. Now they have 4.
Yeah.
So it's 20-4. That's cute.
Yeah.
Good job.
Good job, Lions fans.
Good job,
And
guys.
these Lions fans, talking to you guys, because you're watching right now, because you care way more about us than we care about you. They're the most obnoxious people in the world. Okay, not all of them. I'm sure most Lions fans are nice people, but the loudest are the most annoying, and
Yes.
they're the worst. So I hope they never win another football game ever again.
I think they're going to win some,
Maybe,
but
maybe.
hopefully not this year. All right. Well, that was actually more fun to look at all of them.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
We'll
we found some
throw
good
all
ones
3 of
there.
them up there, and we'll be able to see them, and maybe we'll shout out some of those accounts on Twitter.
Yeah.
Mention them, clip out some of our chats. Before we wrap this up, we got to at least talk a little bit about this wild card game against the Rams in LA. It's going to be the last wild card game of wild card weekend, Monday Night Football, January 13th, a week from today. It's coming up.
Yep. As of literally a week from right now.
Yep.
We will be watching that game.
So, keys to victory. What do you think? How do the Vikings get out of this one with a win?
Well, you again have prepared us pretty well here in this segment. You've got offensive and defensive keys here. And on offense, the teams kind of have a similar identity, which you say no surprise. Kevin O'Connell was the Rams offensive coordinator just a few seasons ago. So they're obviously going to look similar. These teams are kind of evenly matched. They have similar strengths, similar weaknesses. This will be a good game. I think just the Vikings need to. That one key to victory is Sam Darnold needs to forget his inaccurate moments and hit the receivers.
Yeah.
Play the game. Hit the receivers. That's all you need to do, Sam. And I think that will be huge.
Yeah, and I think on the defensive side of the ball, I was doing some digging today. The Rams are one of the worst third down teams in the league this year. They're not the worst, but they're one of the worst. And they don't get to third down a lot, but when they do, they don't convert a lot. And so I think that's something that the Vikings will have to exploit on defense. Brian Flores is going to have to work to get them in these third down situations and try to, get after Matthew Stafford, because he's probably going to drop back and pass in those third down situations. He's going to try to find Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua.
Which that worked well the last time the Vikings played them.
Yeah, but if I remember right, and I could be wrong, they did a lot of the dink and dunk, the little check downs, the little screen passes off to the side, and then the Vikings were playing a lot of zone at that point, and they just exploited the zone, weaved their way through, got the first down, got just enough to, move the sticks and keep the ball moving, and that's kind of how that game went. I think this Vikings defense has learned a lot about itself since those 2 back-to-back losses against the Lions and the Rams after the bye week. And of course, they have all of their players back, really. I mean, Blake Cashman was out. I think Ivan Pace Jr. was out at that point too, or maybe that was a little later in the season.
I don't remember that.
I can't remember, but anyways, they're very healthy. They're very ready to go, and I think they're hungry. I think they have a chip on their shoulder. I think they're pissed off at how poorly the Week 18 game went against the Lions. They're ready to get that sour taste out of their mouth and go for it. It is an advantage too, I would say, to play the last game of Wild Card Weekend, just maximum amount of time to recover. So another key to the game, I would just say the Vikings, not only you mentioned this with Sam Darnold, he's got to just find the open guys and make completions. I think KOC needs to call a good game too, kind of like he tried to do against the Lions. And again, I'm not necessarily faulting him. It wasn't horrible play calling in my opinion, but he's got to find a balance. He can't abandon the run early on, and he's got to be able to utilize things like the play action and stuff like that to keep this defense on their toes. I don't think the Rams have the greatest defense. In fact, they may have one of the worst defenses in the NFC playoffs right now. I don't back me up on that, but I don't know that they're the strongest NFC defense right now. So I think Kevin O'Connell has to exploit that as a play caller too.
For sure. This is going to be a fun one to watch, a nerve-wracking one, because this one counts. I mean, it's not the regular season anymore. It's the playoffs. Win or go home.
Win or go home.
Yeah, I think the smallest of silver linings, or the thinnest of silver linings, in losing that game against the Lions is now you're motivated even more. Not that they weren't motivated, not that they couldn't have won, but now it's like, crap. Like, all right, spend that extra 15 minutes in the film room. Do that extra little bit of preparation because, you need to, and you've felt what it feels like. You know what it feels like to lose right now, and that sucks. And now you're motivated to go out and actually win the playoff games that matter right now. Like,
there's that legendary picture last season of Kevin O'Connell with that big stick at practice after the Vikings fumbled the ball like an egregious amount of times in a game. I wonder what he will do in practice this week. Like, Sam, quit throwing the ball so high. Here's how we're going to correct that. Is there a prodding stick or something that he can pull out to correct some of that?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm here for it. If there's something to fix that, let's do it.
If anybody can fix a quarterback playing the way that Sam played last night, it's Kevin O'Connell. Yeah. I think he's proven that in his 3 years. He helped correct some of Kirk Cousins' bad habits. Yeah. And some of those bad habits continued to die hard, and it sucked to watch for Vikings fans because we watched him take a lot of sacks and we watched him throw the ball away a lot. But then, Kirk Cousins gets hurt last year, and we got the 4 amazing quarters across 2 games with Josh Dobbs, the Pastronaut. We got little Nick Mullins. We got a little Jaron Hall. And we saw the good, the bad, and the ugly of quarterback play as Vikings fans last year, but we also saw really good coaching, and we've seen amazing coaching, phenomenal coaching from Kevin O'Connell and Josh McCown too.
Yeah.
By extension, he's interviewing for head coaching jobs.
I think the Jets today, for sure.
Which is slightly concerning, but anyways, I'm excited for this Rams game. I'm excited to hopefully see this Vikings team turn things around after a really ugly loss to end the season.
Yeah. Do you have a game prediction?
I do. I want to hear yours first, though.
I like to protect myself. I like to guard my feelings, and I like to be the doom and gloom.
Unless you're texting me in the middle of the game and you're like, nah, we're going to win this game. And then 5 minutes later, nah, we're going to lose this game.
I think the Vikings go down there and they beat the Rams. They can't let this 14-win season end with another. Kevin O'Connell can't have another just awful first playoff game of the year, like they did against the Giants a few years ago. The Vikings know the Rams. Kevin O'Connell knows Sean McVay.
Mm-hmm.
And to that point, Sean McVay knows Kevin O'Connell too. But this Vikings team is better than the Rams. They will go down there. They will beat them. It won't be a bashing, but I'm going to say 24-17 Vikings.
All right. I'm going to be pretty similar. I'm not going to be too far off from you.
Okay.
I think 26-13 Vikings.
Okay.
I think the defense holds this Rams team to a lower score total. And I think this offense figures something out. I think they score a few more points. And I think the 26, which is kind of an odd score in football, comes from maybe a defensive score. There might be a safety in there.
Oh, maybe,
something. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if the defense scores at least once in this Rams game. I think they're going to get after Matthew Stafford. I think they're going to make his life miserable. I think they're going to try to get him in those third down situations, third and long situations, and really just go after it. I think they've all got this really bad taste in their mouth, and they're excited to prove to the world what they can do.
Yeah.
You've got something I want to know what you're chuckling at.
As we record, I have Twitter up and just keep tabs on the world as we're talking in case we can break news on a pre-recorded podcast. And right now, friend of the show Dustin Baker tweeted, I'm gonna censor one word, but he went to the game. He was one of the people that purchased the face value tickets from the Vikings owners who spent a lot of money to do that. His tweet says, the Detroit road trip, for better or worse, is complete. Have decided that it was good for Darnold to have his trash game last night rather than round one of the actual playoffs. And trust me, I spent 13 hours effing thinking about this one on the road. LOL. I think he's right.
That's a good take. I like it. I agree with him. Let's hope that all of the bad stuff is out. I mean, we saw this happen earlier this season. Sam Darnold threw 3 interceptions at Jacksonville and then came back and just lit up the league. Yeah. I mean, lit up all the other teams they played until they got grounded at Detroit.
Yeah. It was December.
Yeah.
December.
Yeah.
And Santa Claus, not Santa Claus. Santa Claus was wreaking havoc on the league. It was fun.
I think we should just stick with Sammy D.
Yeah, Sammy D. We'll throw up the graphic here.
I did have my Sammy D shirt on last night. I wore it. I was excited for him. I texted you multiple times during the game. I still have faith in this guy. Had faith that Kevin O'Connell would get his mind right, get Sammy D's mind right on the sideline. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I think they turn it around. And I think they win this wild card game. And who knows? Maybe we're going back to Detroit in 2 weeks.
All right. I hope you're right, because the Wheel of Purple Punishments is not done. And I don't want you to have to wax your legs or something. So,
well, so let it be known that we're going to continue the wheel into the playoffs.
Yep.
This was kind of just an audible that we made a little bit ago, but we're going to continue it. We've both predicted a Vikings win against the Rams. So if they lose, we both have to spin the wheel and suffer whatever punishment comes with the remaining 3 choices of sitting in a child's chair, consuming an entire jar of pickles, or getting pied in the face.
Or waxing a limb.
Or whatever the fans select based on a vote democratically.
Which I will
Twitter.
put together. And
and
there
I
will only be
pre-approve.
one choice. I will say that waxing, that wasn't that bad. Like I said, 1.5 or 2, maybe.
All right. Well, maybe you just have a higher pain tolerance than I do.
Had we started drinking yet?
Barely.
Maybe, a couple sips. Maybe that's it. Just get a couple sips in. You'll be fine.
Right. Good to know.
Another good thing to know is we are going to be live January 18th at Rivers
River Ridge Brewing.
Yep.
In Bellevue, Iowa. Coming up here on, was it January 18th.
So Evan right now is holding up the flyer with all the information. It's the same graphic that's been going around Facebook, and we'll share it a few times here.
I'll put it again up down here as well.
But this event on tap is being presented by the Mainstream Podcast. I had a really awesome time this past weekend. Yeah, it was just a few days ago. I went and jumped on the Mainstream Podcast with those guys, talked about Vikings, talked about football in general. We had a fun draft where we picked like an all-time kind of fantasy football offense roster. That was pretty fun. By the way, that's still going. Fans can vote on Facebook on which draft they think is the best. We've shared that post, so go vote for me. I win a lot of pride if I win the draft. I don't know how well I'm doing right now. But anyways, and be sure to check out, as of right now, the Mainstream's most recent podcast episode. I sat down with them for an hour and a half or so. That was a lot of fun. Those guys are great. And I'd love to do that again sometime soon. So for sure, come to the event, River Ridge Brewery in Bellevue, Iowa, on January 18th. I think we'll have at least the opportunity, like we'll be doing a live episode there, and then it'll be recorded. We'll post it out to all of our feeds and everything, and that could be the day of a playoff game too. So
yeah, I think it's the divisional round. So if the Vikings win in the wild card next weekend, the following weekend we'll be in Bellevue, and we could be, watching on our phones to see what happens.
Yep.
So it'll be a lot of fun, though. Some of the other podcasts that we got to rub shoulders with at the Iowa Podcast Awards this fall in September will be there as well. So we're excited to be a part of that, excited that the Mainstream has taken on the challenge of hosting a big event like this, and should be good. And River Ridge, I can tell you, and you can speak to this now too because you've had some of their beer.
Yeah.
Good beer. Really good beer.
Great beer.
So
absolutely.
I'm excited to go back there and try some more of their stuff.
Yep. And we'll be there most of the day, or at least I plan to be there most of the day. It's something like 1 to 7 or 8 or something like that is how long the event's going on. So I plan to be there most of the day, and it'll be a good time.
Should be great. In the meantime, where can people find us?
We are everywhere. First off, we have a website, theskolhop.com, which is like criminally outdated. I need to get back on that.
It's all good.
But yeah, you can find all of our socials where, if you can think of a social media account, we're probably out there. Facebook, Twitter or X, Instagram, TikTok, maybe Threads. I don't know how that works. Blue Sky.
Threads seems really spammy to me.
Yeah, it all does. But we're everywhere. And then obviously, if you've only ever been an audio listener of our podcast on Apple or Spotify, we do put out all of our episodes video recorded on YouTube. And we have shorts on there as well. So yeah, we're everywhere. Just search The Skol Hop, SKOL, and you will find us.
You will. All right. Well, I think we need to wrap this thing up. We've been yapping for a while.
Yep.
Really quick before we do that, next week, we're actually going to record a day before the Vikings game because the Vikings are playing on Monday night, which is our normal recording night. So you won't actually get our hot takes on whatever happens in that wild card matchup with the Rams for 2 more weeks.
Yep.
But next week, what we've got planned is we're going to do some kind of end of the regular season superlatives. So Austin and I have 10 different categories, things like best Vikings rookie of the year, offensive player of the year, favorite play of the year, things like that. We've got a whole list. We've got 10 of them. We're going to go through all of them. We've each got things that we're going to bring to the table for that. I'm kind of even thinking like I'll try to incorporate like some video or like highlights of different things, like bring in like, video highlights of the offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, whatever. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, it'll be a fun way for us to hopefully kind of distract ourselves from being super anxious about what's going to happen the next night, when the Vikings hopefully beat the Rams.
Yep. Yeah, and it'll be a good closeout to the regular season too.
So we're going to do that next week. That'll be episode 75, which is crazy to think that we're 3/4 of the way to 100 at this point. But that'll be a fun episode. Make sure you tune in next week for that. And then episode 76, you'll get our full breakdown of the wild card game against the Rams, whatever happens, and hopefully looking ahead to a divisional matchup against who knows who at this point.
Yeah, I mean, what was that one scenario earlier? Would it have been Washington?
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Washington at home.
Yeah.
A home game.
That'd be fun.
As a 5 seed. How about that?
Yeah. All right. Well, again, if we don't stop talking, we will accidentally have a 4-hour podcast. So
we're not going to do that. This beer was really good, though. Chocolate peanut butter pretzel stout from Backpocket Brewing, Coralville, Iowa. It's really good, especially if you're into chocolate and peanut butter. I was even thinking, I know some people that don't really like beer, but love chocolate peanut butter.
Yeah. Because this maybe someone who doesn't like beer would tell me I'm wrong. This didn't taste very beer-y.
No, it doesn't. It tastes like a Reese's peanut butter cup with a little bit of pretzel in there.
Like that stout. It's really good. I like it a lot. I will gladly have it more and more. It's a winter beer for sure.
It's delicious. Yep. I enjoyed it. Thanks for bringing it.
Yeah, thanks for drinking it. And thanks Backpocket for brewing it.
All right.
Great beer. Great episode. Skol.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop.